Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for Off the Walls comes from Janus Henderson Investors, celebrating more than 89 years of helping clients with their financial goals. Janus Henderson, investing in a brighter future together. JanusHenderson.com.
Support for Off the Walls comes from Credit Union of Colorado, offering a 15-month certificate of deposit with a 5.85% return. Learn more at cuofco.org/CD. Credit Union of Colorado is banking members can trust.
A quick warning before we get started. This episode mentions sexual assault. Alexandrea Pangburn loves working with spray paint.
The speed of it is really nice. Spray paint has helped me kind of move through a piece at like a faster pace, and so I get a little bit more into it and get stoked to finish it.
She's spray painting the last details, some flowers, onto a new mural just off of a busy stretch of East Colfax.
Originally my flowers weren't going this high, but I put in some more flowers, so I'm just kind of working from pulling just an extra layer up.
Alex really cares about making sure other women in Denver have the opportunity to do this. To be part of filling this city with beautiful street art. Alex is the executive director of Babe Walls, a mural festival for all female and non-binary artists. Alex had noticed a disparity in Denver's street art scene.
You know, it was mostly male-dominated, and there weren't a lot of women working.
And she wasn't alone in noticing that. Other local artists, who are also core members of this Babe Walls community, said they wanted to see more women succeed in this space too.
Only certain people were getting jobs, and it seemed like there were closed doors on a lot of different artists, and that just seemed really ridiculous.
You know, why not, I guess? Why not have women be part of that environment as well? There's so many talented artists.
So, to create change, this group of artists created Babe Walls. Over the past few years, Babe Walls has held festivals and created a community of women and non-binary artists. But how did they do it? And how has Babe Walls changed Denver's street art scene? This is Off the Walls, a podcast about the people and the stories behind Denver's street art. I'm Emily Williams.
And I'm Kibwe Cooper. On this show, we're introducing you to artists who have made their mark on Denver through murals.
Kibwe, what comes to mind for you when you think of these women starting this completely new thing, setting out to start this mural festival?
First of all, I don't know how mural festivals get started, but with any organization, you know, my thoughts are like, what are your mission values? Who are you trying to be aligned with? I think that can be a challenge. And so I'm curious how they're going to pull it all off.
Yeah, I was wondering a lot of the same things. I wanted to know how they took this vision that Alex had and made it a reality. We'll hear more from Alex later, but first, I met up with Grow Love, an artist who loves to paint big, bold murals, and who isn't afraid to speak her mind. She's one of the founding artists of Babe Walls. Grow Love is the artist moniker she gave herself. Her studio space in Westminster is small and full of color. On one wall, you can see all of these layers of outlines of rectangles. It's the spray paint left over around the edges of canvases. It looks like a bit of a chaotic, abstract mural.
I love what that wall looks like. I always love how it's just like a unique buildup of paint.
What does that wall say right now?
My mom has worked with me a lot. So we had a meeting here a couple weeks ago, and we came up with this quote is, "Where is the sprinkled donut?" We were at a bus station and we saw this perfect purple sprinkled donut on the ground. Like, it hadn't been touched. It was just so random. And that's kind of what we're trying to find, that is like, where's this randomness in life, where you can find the beauty in life through art.
Painting has always been what Grolove has been drawn to. She remembers getting her very first set of paints at 8 years old.
We had a neighbor who had passed away, and there was an estate sale. I went over there, and it turns out the person who lived there was a painter, and their whole basement was filled with paintbrushes and old canvases and paint. And so I bought a bunch of old paint, and I was going to teach myself how to oil paint, which is, for an 8-year-old, is a little crazy. But I've always been like that. I've always, whenever I wanted to achieve something or learn something, I set out and I did it.
Grolove grew up in Wheat Ridge and Golden, and she got her art degree at the University of Denver. She saw herself as an artist, but doing art professionally, full-time, wasn't really an option for her as a young adult.
I kind of had a tumultuous young adulthood where I became a mother very early and struggled with identifying as an artist. And then and I actually was a labor doula for 5 years. I worked at a bank. I worked in restaurants. I worked retail. I was doing everything that I could to support my family.
While doing all of these different jobs, Grolove kept making art, but on the side. Then, on a trip to Miami for a healthcare workshop, Grolove had a truly life-changing moment that totally changed the way she thought about her art.
My friend who lived down there was like, hey, I know you're an artist. It just so happened to be Art Basel down there, which is the biggest art fair in the world. I had no idea what that was. I had never heard of it. And she took me into the Wynwood Arts District, which is 20 square blocks of murals, like world-class murals. And I took a step into this area, and I was like, that's it. I really felt like the blindfold came off of my face, and I was like, this is it. This is all I want to do. I want to paint this. I want to paint this big. I think it was literally like, I will die if I don't do this.
Grolove decided she didn't just want to do this. She had to do this. And to make that happen, to become a full-time mural artist, she'd have to fully commit to it without fear.
Nobody's going to do this for me. Like, I am out here alone, and I kind of had to have that mentality about it to really go full force into it, because support or no support, I was going to do it. I knew that if I wanted to learn something, I would have to stop using the tools that I had used before. So I told myself, for 1 year, I'm going to put all my paintbrushes and everything that I used to paint before, lock them away, and everything that I was doing before, try to do it with spray paint. And so that's how I learned. I was working and learning at the same time, and I still am learning. I think that's why I love this medium so much, is because it just continues to impress me with its capacity to make a visual mark. I'm obsessed.
In 2017, Grolove got her first chance to paint for Crush Walls. Crush Walls was a mural festival in Denver's River North or Rhino Arts District. It started in 2010 and is really how that neighborhood became a hotspot for street art. At that time, it was the biggest stage in Denver for a muralist to be on, and one of the biggest stages for any muralist from anywhere to be on. These were coveted spots for creating new street art. Through a friend, Grolove had gotten space to paint.
I wasn't officially on the roster for that, but I knew somebody who knew somebody, and so I got that one. And that really was exciting and fun. But that was, that was the beginning of recognizing what I didn't want to be a part of too.
The more Grolove got into the local street art scene, the more concern she had with how it was operating. Some people, like Grolove, were worried about how art made for events like Crush could contribute to the gentrification of those neighborhoods. And one of the biggest issues Grolove saw was what felt to her like a culture of exclusivity and gatekeeping, where only certain people got most of the opportunities.
If there were 20 spots on the roster, 15 to 18 of those would go to the same people.
3 spots would go to up-and-coming artists or visiting artists or something like that. And it just seemed like they would just switch out who the female or the Black artist or the brown artist was going to be. That's what it felt like. And it was happening again and again and again with festivals or gallery shows or, you name it. And it was just like, this is so lame. Like, there's so many more dope artists out here. Like, it just felt like the boys club. And it was like, yeah, you guys are great, but there are other people in this city who are amazing. And it just felt like they were guaranteed work no matter what. And us out over here were like, maybe if we were lucky. Just didn't seem equitable. So I started talking to other female artists and non-binary folks, and they were saying the same thing, that they felt the same way about how things were going. And it just felt bad. Communicating with each other, just started some steam started building up. And I'm like, you know what? We have the capacity to do our own thing.
It was around that time Grolov met Alex Pangburn, the muralist who would eventually become the head of Babe Walls. Alex grew up in Kentucky and had been living in Ohio before she moved to Denver in 2017. She says she had never seen so much street art in one place, and she knew immediately she wanted to immerse herself in the artist community here. So she got a job at the Rhino Art District's retail gallery.
Being there in that spot, it really helped me on a fast track to connect with the artist community in Denver because I was dealing with artists directly.
As Alex was taking in all of this, meeting artists, going to galleries, and getting to know this community, she noticed something, the same thing that Grolov had been noticing.
It was mostly male-dominated, and there weren't a lot of women working. It was infuriating to me that there would be like one female artist, and she wasn't even from the area. And just knowing like how much talent was here in Denver, it was really irritating to me that there was no highlight on the talent, on the local talent. So I'd just kind of been thinking about how cool would it be if there was just a spot for women to be able to paint, and how we could just, get together and just do it on our own. If nobody else was going to give us an opportunity, well, then we would just do it by ourselves.
Right around the time that Alex got this idea, she had the opportunity to hire an artist for a job in Rhino, and she reached out to Grolov to do it.
I was curating a project for a barbershop on Brighton Boulevard, and they had this huge transformer box that they wanted to be rotated every few months with artists. And I remember I put Grolov on it, and I had seen her around and like wanted to chat with her, but I was like pretty intimidated by her because I just thought that she was the coolest. And so I put her on that project because I thought she'd be a great fit, and then also it'd be an opportunity for me to kind of be able to talk to her. So I knew she was working that day and went up to her and was like, hey, I have this idea, I'd really love for you to be a part if you'd be interested.
Grolov was all in, and that conversation marked the start of something.
I think that was one of the breaking points and one of the seeds for sure for Babe Walls.
They started assembling a core team of artists, and Alex got to work figuring out when and how they could pull off this vision. Originally, the plan was to host a mural festival, which they'd call Babe Walls, and fill the roster with all women and non-binary artists. It would be a one-time event that would hopefully make a statement and potentially create some ripples of change for other festivals. But to make Babe Walls happen, there was a lot they needed to figure out. Alex connected with the owner of the Acoma House, a boutique arts hotel in Denver, about a possible location for the festival.
And just in, discussion had kind of mentioned how I wanted to do this festival, and it was celebrating, women and non-binary artists. And she was like, oh, we actually have a bunch of properties up in Westminster. They're all together. Some of the walls are really great. Literally the next day, she was like, here are the codes to some of the buildings. Like, let's meet up there. I'll show you the space. We went up to Westminster and she showed me the buildings, and I kind of got a lay for the land and was like, oh man, we could like really pull this off.
Things were starting to fall into place. In April of 2020, They started a fundraiser on Kickstarter to raise the money they'd need to hold the festival. On the page, they wrote about what Babe Walls would be. We are here to celebrate women in their art and what we can do when we come together to create, they wrote. They were nervous about whether or not they'd get the support they needed to pull it off. A global pandemic had just started, but they reached and exceeded their goal. And they took it as a sign that they had an idea other people believed in.
And I'm pretty sure we all cried whenever we were able to meet our Kickstarter goal.
We had such a boost of self-esteem from all the support that we had gotten that people were ready for it. We went ahead and did it.
I just think it is so beautiful the way these ladies are able to come together and create something that's very unique and intentional.
I keep thinking back to that moment that Alex and Grolove met, and that moment of getting an idea and looking back and saying, oh, that was a moment that really started something.
Oh yeah. And then to realize, listen, we don't have to wait in line. Let's just do our own thing.
So what happened when they held the first Babe Walls Festival? And what was it like for an artist who painted her very first mural there? That's after a break.
Hey, it's Kibwe. I wanted to let you know about a collaboration we're doing with Apple Maps. It's a guided tour of the murals and special places you've heard about in the show. To check it out, go to apple.co/offthewalls. You'll find a guide to some of the coolest public art in Colorado and photos of the murals we talk about in Off the Walls. That's apple.co/offthewalls.
To assemble their team of artists for the first Babe Walls, the core group of founding members each invited other artists to paint with them. One of the women who got that invitation was Danielle Seawalker. I met up with Danielle at her studio in Rhino. She'd been spray painting just before, so the paint smell lingered in the air a little as she showed me around the space.
Down this way is a lot of my finished art pieces or pieces that are getting ready to go on an exhibition, and including my teepee poles, and some other kinds of prints and things like that.
Danielle is a citizen of the Standing Rock tribe in North Dakota, where she grew up. And her identity as an Indigenous woman is an important part of her art.
There's a painting that I had done earlier this year, and it's called Land Hostage. And it's a visual of sort of a man that was inspired by an old photo that I had seen of a prisoner, a Native American prisoner. The braids are made of a collage of government-issued checks that I receive for land that I have inherited through my dad back on the reservation. And these checks are also very insulting. Sometimes they're $4.25 or $6.17. So I never cash them, and I just collect them and I embed them in a lot of my artwork.
One of the reasons Danielle moved to Denver was to be part of the art community here. She loved walking around and seeing the vibrant murals and street art. It was inspiring. But when it came to these massive paintings, Danielle thought that's all she would do. Admire them.
I never, ever thought I would be one to do that because I had zero idea how to execute it. Painting something on such a large scale was mind-boggling to me. I started to meet a lot of people in the art community, and a friend of mine introduced me to another artist, Romel, who's also part of the Babe Walls team. And we were just sort of, learning more about each other's art and who we were. And then she's like, "Have you ever done a mural?" I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, would you be interested in maybe doing one?" And I didn't know what to say. I was like, maybe, I don't know. And then she kind of explained, Babe Walls and the intent behind that. And then, 2020 was such a bizarre year that at that point, I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let me just learn. Let me try it.
They had their funding, they had their location, and they had their artists. And then it happened. On a hot day in August, about 25 artists came together and got to work on a dozen walls spread out along a few blocks in a residential area of Westminster. First-time muralist Danielle Seawalker wasn't just working on a wall. She and her collaborator, Ramel, painted an entire house. Because this was a new kind of festival, celebrating women and non-binary artists, Danielle wanted to capture the female spirit in their mural. And she wanted to highlight an issue that's important to her.
In my culture as a Native woman, I do a lot of activism as well. And one of those things is bringing awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls crisis that's been going on for a long time. On each side of the wall, there's different representation of women. And then along, as you kind of wrap around the wall, it's almost like the house is wearing a ribbon skirt, which a lot of Native women wear to ceremony and important events, et cetera. And then a big giant red handprint on the front, which is the symbol that people know for this particular crisis.
Danielle found herself completely consumed by the mural making process.
I was just painting nonstop. And I remember Romel coming up to me saying, Danielle, like, you need to take breaks. Because I literally was like from sun up to sundown, just pressed up against that wall painting nonstop. And like literally, it's like I didn't have to use the restroom. I was not thirsty. Wasn't hungry. It was just like this, I don't know, this surge of energy. And like I just wanted to, it was so exhilarating and fun. And I loved it. It was an amazing experience. And I've been super addicted to painting on walls ever since.
For Alex and Grolove, the best thing about that day was just that they had pulled this off.
That first day of Babe Walls, it was like really life-changing. And I think to be able to see that many women and non-binary artists come together and painting, and there was a huge sense of community. And then, of course, all the people that had supported us. I think there was a little over 2,500 people that showed up over the course of 2 days.
It really felt like we had achieved something great because we were the artists who were kind of used and then thrown out. In a way, that's what it kind of felt like. Or we were accepted as long as we behaved ourselves. And so the fact that we were like, okay, we don't want to be a part of that. We don't want to be treated like that. We're going to do our own thing. And we actually pulled it off. I mean, all of us walking around, seeing each other paint. I mean, our hearts were so full. We were literally, it was like the time of our lives. And it felt like a sisterhood that we could only have dreamed of. It literally felt like we were on cloud nine. It was the best thing that could have ever happened.
But after that emotional high of the start of the festival, something happened that threw Grolove into a completely different state of mind. There was one person who Grolove did not expect to see at Babe Walls, Robin Monroe. Robin Monroe is the founder of Crush Walls, that mural festival that was the biggest event of the year for muralists in Denver. And because of that, he's also one of the most influential people in the city's street art scene. Grolove had met Monroe at the first Crush Walls she painted at in 2017. She says they started to date and that he assaulted her. She'd told that to other female muralists in the community. She said she felt like she wanted them to know for their safety. So she did not expect him to be there at Babe Walls.
My collaborator at that point, she was trying to learn a technique with spray paint and ended up inviting him to spray our wall that we were all working on together when she knew what happened to me. And I literally lost my mind. Somebody had come up to me and warned me, just so you know, he's over there. And I just immediately left. We still had one more day to paint, and I could barely bring myself to come back. But I did. And my friend apologized for what she did. It was like complete polar opposites of where I was at. Like, we did this, we did this dream come true. And then here comes literally a nightmare. I was like, that's it. It broke me. I was like, I'm going full public with this.
In September of 2020, Grolove shared a post on Instagram that laid out her allegations against Monroe. That post had ripple effects throughout the entire local art scene. The Rhino Arts District put out a statement saying it would investigate the allegations against Monroe. Then, that December, the Arts District announced it had reached a mutual agreement to cut ties with Monroe and his organization, Crush Walls. That announcement didn't mention the allegations. That February, Denverite published a detailed report that included an interview with Grolov and with another woman who said he'd sexually assaulted her. We reached out to Monroe for this podcast, and he said that all of this was investigated, and that from that investigation, it was, quote, readily apparent that the allegations against me are demonstrably false. He says Rhino settled out of court, returned the rights to Crush to him, and removed a statement they made about his termination. We reached out to the Rhino Arts District, but they declined to say anything. In 2021, there was no Crush Walls Festival. There hasn't been one since. Grolov stands behind what she shared, and she said that choosing to share her story was not easy.
You basically have to welcome whatever will come, and you don't know, because in the past, I could have lost everything. People lost respect for me. I lost my reputation in ways, and it's like, you don't understand how people really, truly are programmed to dismiss women and the violence that happens to them. I feel safer now than I've ever felt. I've worked through a lot of my trauma. Basically, I just want people to feel safe. I want to feel safe, and I want people to feel safe.
As all of this unfolded, Babe Walls was looking to the future, to a second festival. Alex had thought Babe Walls was going to be a one-time thing, but after the success of their first year, it was clear to her that they should keep this going. The community they'd started to build was growing, and their idea was resonating with artists well outside of Colorado.
We opened up applications to the public for 2021, and we had 400 applications come through. At that point, there was a bigger shift from it being, strictly local to we need to expand our reach and bring in people from out of state to be able to be a part of this so that we can make connections with other cities, be able to support communities, not just in the Colorado area, but nationally.
For the second Babe Walls, they were invited by the city of Arvada to paint along a stretch of the Ralston Creek Trail. Just like that first festival, the energy was high when all the Babe Walls artists convened there for 4 days that July. Danielle was back to paint another mural.
And it was really cool because we were literally right next to each other. It was just this, we were all very close to one another. And it was very much this festival feeling where people and spectators and folks that wanted to come watch us paint could just, go to one spot and see all this art happening at once. So that was just so, so great.
Grolov and Alex painted murals too. Almost all of Alex's paintings feature animals. And the one she painted for that Babe Walls is part of a distinct memory for her.
The very first animal that I saw when I drove into the state of Colorado was a pronghorn. And I literally thought it was an antelope that had gotten loose from a zoo because I had never seen one before.
And Grolov worked with the artist Mar Williams to paint a dreamy landscape.
I had gotten back from New Mexico. When I was there was these incredible cicadas. I'd never seen them up close like this before. But she ended up painting these beautiful cicadas, coming out of this kind of dream landscape. And then there was this character riding the cicadas. And so it was this super long mural that was a scene that went from one thing to another. It was really cool.
Babe Walls took this year off. There was no Babe Walls 2023, but the festival will be back in 2024. In the meantime, Alex, Danielle, and Grolov have all been busy painting new murals. Danielle had never painted a mural before Babe Walls, but after that first one, she was hooked. For her, it became a springboard, and she's gone on to amass an impressive collection of murals just in the few years since that first Babe Walls.
So 2020 to 2022, I had done 20 murals. And now we're into 2023, and I've probably done about 5 to 7 more, and I have 2 more on deck to do. So I'm almost at 30 murals in 3 years. It's crazy, I know.
Looking back on the past few years, Alex and Grolove say they feel like their community is in a good place.
So much has changed. It's taken like a total 180. It's been like really cool to see that shift.
Now we're in this really cool period of growth. I think a lot of other festivals took into account what was happening and made sure that they're doing their due diligence and folding in the equitable inclusivity things and really standing by that, not just saying it, but actually standing by that and doing the work that it takes to say that that's what you're doing. That was another beautiful thing that came from this.
Kibwe and I visited the Ralston Creek Trail and Arvada together, so I could show him some of the Bay Walls murals.
Okay, this is just the start of it. You can see it goes way down there.
Wow. All right, so this is like a string of murals right here.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. All of these are connected along this path, and also there are bikers coming by all the time, so we're trying to get out of their way.
And these murals are beautiful, very colorful. This one we're looking at right now, it looks like a jellyfish. There's pink and orange and purple, and there's some blacks in this.
It's like outer space and under the ocean at the same time.
Yeah.
And like these psychedelic mushrooms over there too. That's what they look like. Oh.
Here come the bikes.
This is the one that Grolove painted. Remember she talked about the cicadas?
Yeah. That's a cicada? Right? That's one of the cicadas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What do you think looking at all of these murals here?
I really love the idea of refusing to accept what's unacceptable. These ladies refuse to accept the problematic environment in which they were given to perform their art. And rather than accepting that, they took matters into their own hands. They created something that's sustainable, that elevates their talent, that empowers them, and that also creates beautiful, important, and whimsical art.
I wonder how many people do bike or run down this path. I wonder if they know that this was the product of these women coming together and wanting a space to be together and to celebrate each other and to teach each other and to learn from each other and make beautiful art. I mean, everyone can see the beautiful art, but I'd love if everyone who came by also knew that beautiful intention that went into it.
That's really good.
You can find the Bay Walls 2021 murals on the Ralston Creek Trail in Arvada, where Ralston Road meets Lamar Street. You can find photos of the murals on cpr.org. There's a link in the show notes. We're the hosts of Off the Walls. I'm Emily Williams.
And I'm Kibwe Cooper. This episode was written and reported by Emily Williams. It was mixed by Emily Williams. Our editor is Joe Erickson. Brad Turner is our executive producer. Off the Walls is a production of Denverite and Colorado Public Radio, part of the NPR network.
Support for Off the Walls comes from Janus Henderson Investors, celebrating more than 89 years of helping clients with their financial goals. Janus Henderson, investing in a brighter future together. JanusHenderson.com.
Support for Off the Walls comes from Credit Union of Colorado, offering a new Visa Signature credit card with 2% cashback rewards on all purchases. Credit Union of Colorado is banking members can trust. More at cuofco.org/signature.
Hey, it's Kibwe. I wanted to let you know about a collaboration we're doing with Apple Maps. It's a guided tour of the murals and special places you've heard about in the show. To check it out, go to apple.co/offthewalls. You'll find a guide to some of the coolest public art in Colorado and photos of the murals we talk about in Off the Walls. That's apple.co/offthewalls.